Yeah, AJ Mahar here. Are you a codependent? Are you still focused on ruminating about chasing, stealth hoovering, reverse hoovering, waiting to be hoovered, thinking that you've gone no contact, as so very many people out there say, and yet there's avenues of contact open, and you're kidding yourself? Why would you be doing that to yourself? What is this overfocus all about? How is it that you still think, despite all the evidence to the contrary, that pursuing closure will get you closure, or that the pursuit of closure is really about closure? Because more often than not, it's not. You might believe it is, but it's about do-overs and trying again and just not accepting loss, just not accepting when something didn't work out, not accepting, unfortunately, the pain and more that you've been caused. But what is this narrative out there for codependents that everything is a borderline's fault? I'm not saying they're not responsible for what they do. Of course they are. But what about what you're responsible for? Which is not disengaging, not leaving, not getting help, putting up with it, going forward, having false hope. For all the reasons people keep pursuing people with BPD. Even when they've ghosted you, they've betrayed you, they monkey branched you. What is it in your psychology? What is it in you that this treatment doesn't make you stop and go, wait a minute? Not only what about me, meaning you, never mind low self-esteem and low self-worth. Why don't you have self-respect? And many people with codependency have self-respect in terms of careers, success in other avenues and areas of life. But emotionally, people with codependency lack self-respect. This is another huge part of the reasons why people will continue to pursue the person with BPD or want to be hoovered or go around again or go around again. For some people, that ultimate trigger, for some codependency, ultimate trigger is, I can't be alone. Oh, it's a COVID world. It's harder to meet people. True. So I'll just go back. I'll reverse hoover. I got to go back to that person. And like I've alluded to in other videos, people go back, and after these breakups or on and off again situations for people with codependency, they end up on psych meds. Not a good idea for anybody, by the way. I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to be putting together some things, and maybe there'll be video series coming soon at ajmahari.co. Maybe I'll be doing a little bit here on YouTube. But there's so much more to understand about this, and there's so much more to know about this. What I'm always saying is pseudoscience of psychiatry, in American psychiatry, and the true dangers of psychiatric medication. So now we have a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there, and I'm aware due to client work, but I'm not going to say anything specific here, of a lot of people who the first trigger back to wanting the person or to wanting to get back with a person with BPD or even NPD can just be, I can't be alone. And that's not the same for all people with codependency. But for a lot of other people, for a lot more people with codependency, it's pursuit of why, the answer to the question why. There's no logical answer to the question, why did they do this? Why did they do that? Why this? Why that? How come, we were fighting, this, that, we got closer, everything was great, and then boom, they're gone. I think I explained, I've done 1,500 videos for this channel, but what remains up is I'm in the low 500s now in total videos. Go watch a lot of them if you haven't already. The answers are there. Everything you could ever want to know, and then some. I'm not saying everything absolutely under the sun, but I'll continue to do some of those videos explaining more about people with BPD and what's going on. But it's never good enough for people with codependency, really. You can watch a lot of those videos and other people's videos. And whether the information is accurate in other places or not, you might relate to the YouTuber or whatever, but the point is, what about you? What about you? What about you? What are you pursuing? What are you running in circles after that? Yeah, I've had lots of clients describe to me what they believe it is, but it's not really what it is. It's something that still remains outside the conscious awareness of many people with codependency. So they think it is the pursuit of closure. But when something's ended without closure, what's logical about thinking you can get closure in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month, in 7 months, in a year? And I gotta tell you, if you get on your own healing recovery journey, if you start caring more about yourself and less about the cluster B, you can, not quick, but you can much more quickly find that you care much less about that elusive closure. Because that closure and pursuit of closure is really about a myriad of things. Abandoning yourself some more, not facing your own issues, not wanting to feel the pain that you're in, maybe not knowing how to process your pain. Maybe you've known a lot of pain in your life for a lot of different reasons. A lot of people with codependency who end up with cluster Bs have a cluster B parent. Some people know that for sure. Some people aren't aware of that. Some people still need to realize that. It's not the case for everybody. So what is this pursuit of closure all about? Probably anything and anything but closure. Because people trying to pursue closure when it's not there to be found or had, because people with BPD or narcissists for that matter don't understand enough about what they're doing or how they impact you to even be able to really speak to closure at all. So what are you pursuing? Well, the question might be, what are you pursuing in trying to pursue closure? Because you think that'll bring you relief. And even if it was available, it wouldn't bring you as much relief as you think. The pursuit of closure with a cluster B is just still really rather the avoidance of one's own pain. People with codependency through the false self, have this sort of entitled, just a little bit of self-entitlement in a way. That's really not the right thing to call it, but it's the only thing that comes to mind. In that you think that you deserve this closure, that you should just get this closure, when they don't have it to give. So does that pursuit of closure, whatever that might really mean, for many more codependents than really the closure, isn't that pursuit of closure about something that is in your wounded inner child that you've been needing closure to for a lifetime, that got you into the relationship with the cluster B in the first place, though you didn't know that consciously, what was going to happen? The repetition cycles of codependency. And the way that people with codependency not only continue to abandon themselves to this pursuit of closure, you need to find your own closure in a healing and recovery process. I'm out here to help you with that. If I resonate with you, I help clients and have been for 30 plus years with that. But I can guarantee you one thing. The closure isn't going to come from the cluster B. And that's not really what you're after. You want a do-over. You have something driving this cycle inside of you. It's something that happened in your childhood. And it is your unconscious seeking of reparation of that through this person that you're pursuing in the name of, I need closure. I need to know why he or she said or did this. Isn't that rather externalizing out your control? Like, doesn't that sound, or can you hear that sounds like way extending your control out beyond where you have any agency or control over anyone or anything but yourself? So many with people with codependency don't want to go home alone, don't want to sit alone, don't want to face themselves. And if that resonates with you, then why aren't you in hot pursuit of the answer to the question, why is that? Why is that your reality? Why is that the case? No, most people with codependency will still want to pursue the borderline. They want to pursue that person for closure, for re-engagement, because, oh, you're so worried about them too. I'm not saying you're not, or that people don't really have those concerns and worries. But again, when you're so worried about them, are you worried about you? Because you should be worried about you. You're over every limit and boundary that's healthy for any human being, because you don't have a lot of those limits and boundaries. You're so worried what's going to happen to them if, or you think they're going to go on and have a great life with the next person. No, it takes many, many years of treatment for anything to change for people with BPD. So all these thoughts and ruminations are actually codependent thoughts and ruminations that come from childhood woundedness, the woundedness in your inner child, that have to do with negative core beliefs, that have to do with something else you went through. And it's really not so much about that cluster B. The cluster B might have really woken that in you, triggered it in you, be trying to bring it to your consciousness, the whole situation. But maybe that's what you're resisting the most in the pursuit of the borderline for, quote, closure, unquote. Just something for you to think about today. Doesn't make it any easier to stop the patterns. But as a commenter recently said on the channel, it's about changing bad habits. Seriously, it's way more than bad habits. You've been inculcated and programmed by pain in your childhood that is unresolved. It is still in your inner child, and that is still manifesting itself in your life. Just not in a conscious way. You think you're 30, you're 25, you're 40, you're 50, you're 60, you're 70. You got it all together, right? Not when you got a wounded inner child who's acting counter to your best interests. Not when you don't know where your autonomy ends and another's begins, whether they can take responsibility for it or not. The codependent pursuit of closure with the borderline, that's a mirage in of itself. You're not being honest with yourself. Maybe you don't have enough awareness of what's in your unconscious. But the codependent pursuit of closure with a borderline, when it's over, means that you don't accept it's over, and you're trying to exert control outwardly again, abandoning yourself and increasing your own pain and blaming it on the borderline. It's now your responsibility, because you know more, and now you need to do better for you. Take care.